right, everybody. Welcome to another deep dive. You know we love cars.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be checking out the all-new BMW M2. And
This is a big one.
yeah, this is a big one. And we got a press release directly from
Oh.
BMW themselves. So, we're going to get digging into that.
Straight from the source.
Yeah, a lot of information. So we're going to try to break it down and
Get to the good stuff.
get to the good stuff for you. Exactly.
I think what's going to get people really excited is how BMW is talking about this car.
Oh, yeah.
They're really leaning into this whole legacy thing.
Oh, for sure. I mean, they're using that purebred driving pleasure tagline.
Right.
But is it just marketing or,
Is there something more to it?
yeah, is there substance behind that?
Well, the first gen M2, it was a huge hit.
Yeah, almost 60,000.
It really brought back that idea of like a small and fun, pure driver's car.
Exactly. So that's a lot to live up to for this new M2.
Yeah.
But let's get into it.
All right, let's do it.
How does this thing actually stack up?
Well, visually, it looks like a proper BMW, right? It's got that low, wide stance. It looks, like it's about to pounce, and then you've got that 3-section air intake.
Right.
That's not just for looks.
No,
That's feeding a beast.
it is feeding a beast because under the hood, we have a 3-liter
Yeah.
twin turbocharged inline 6
Classic BMW.
pushing out 453 horsepower.
Yep.
And 406 pound-feet of torque.
But it's not just about the power.
Yeah.
You know what I think is really impressive is how responsive it is.
Right.
They've got twin scroll turbos, direct injection, variable valve timing.
Okay.
They've really squeezed every bit of performance out of this engine.
And, to get that power to the ground, you've got 2 options for the transmission.
You do.
A 6-speed manual or an 8-speed automatic.
Yeah. You know what I love? That they're still offering a manual.
Oh, yeah. It's like spotting a unicorn these days,
It is.
in a performance car.
But it shows that BMW gets it. They know that some people still want that,
The mechanical.
yeah, that direct connection.
That
feel.
Exactly.
Right.
But if you want something a little bit faster, a little bit quicker, shifting that 8-speed automatic is no slouch either.
No, not at all. It's supposed to be really sporty.
And no matter which transmission you choose, you're still getting rear-wheel drive.
Right.
Which is music to my ears.
Oh, for sure.
But how does all that power actually get to the road?
Well, that's where the Active M differential comes in.
Okay, so tell me about that.
So this is some pretty clever tech. Imagine you're going through a corner and you can feel the differential
Yeah.
shifting power to the wheel that needs it most.
Okay.
It just gives you so much more confidence to push the car harder.
So we've got a powerful engine, a couple of choices for transmission rear-wheel drive, and this really smart differential. But what about the chassis? What's going on underneath, all that sleek bodywork?
Well, BMW has definitely made sure that this thing handles like it's on rails.
Okay.
They've added torsional bracing. They're using lightweight components. The suspension tuning is really dialed in.
So even though this car is a little bit bigger than the previous generation,
Yeah.
they've managed to keep it feeling nimble and agile.
Yeah, they've made the whole structure more rigid, which means less body roll in the corners.
Oh, nice.
And a lighter weight, that just makes the car feel more responsive.
Yeah, I love that attention to detail.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're talking about handling now. I want to get behind the wheel. What's the cockpit like in this thing?
Well, you're going to be surrounded by tech.
Oh, really?
They've got the latest iDrive 8 system in there. So you've got a big curved display, intuitive controls, even an M-specific head-up display.
Okay, that sounds pretty fancy. But is it still a driver-focused environment?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Everything is laid out in a way that makes sense. It's not overwhelming.
Right.
The tech is there when you need it, but it doesn't distract you from actually driving.
Yeah, and the head-up display is brilliant
Oh, yeah.
because it means you're not having to take your eyes off the road to see your speed or, your revs or even navigation instructions.
Right, where you've got all the important info right there in front of you.
Okay, and for those who want to really fine-tune the driving experience,
Yeah.
there's this thing called the M setup menu.
Yeah.
So what is that all about?
Well, this is where you can really personalize the car.
Okay.
You can adjust everything from the engine response to the steering feel to the suspension stiffness, even how much the stability control kicks in.
So it's not just about choosing between like sport and comfort mode.
Yeah, oh no.
You can actually
really dial it in.
yeah, tailor it to your driving style.
Exactly.
And then there's the M traction control, which, come on, that just sounds like fun.
Oh, yeah.
For experienced drivers who want to, let's say, push the limits a little bit, explore the art of drifting.
It's like a cheat code.
Yeah, it is.
It lets you adjust how much slip you get before the electronics step in.
So, okay, we've got all this amazing performance, all this incredible technology, But does this car actually feel like a true successor to those iconic BMWs? The ones that really emphasize that connection between the car and the driver.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And
Yeah.
honestly, we can talk about specs all day long.
Right.
But the real answer is going to come from actually getting behind the wheel.
Yeah, you got to feel it.
You gotta feel it.
All right, so we're going to take a quick pause here, but when we come back, we'll dive deeper into how this new M2 stacks up against its predecessors and what it all means for the future of the driver's car. So stay tuned.
Definitely.
We'll be right back. Okay, so we're back, and before the break, we were talking about that whole pure driving pleasure thing.
Right.
And I'm really curious how BMW is balancing all this technology with, that raw, connected feel.
Yeah, it's a tough balance to strike. A lot of performance cars these days, they end up feeling almost too digital.
Right, like you're playing a video game.
Yeah, exactly. You're kind of isolated from the road.
So how does the M2 avoid that trap?
Well, think about the chassis. All those enhancements we talked about, the bracing, the lightweight components, the suspension tuning, that's all high-tech stuff.
Yeah.
But it's all designed to make the car feel more analog, more alive in your hands.
So it's like they're using technology to actually enhance that mechanical connection.
Exactly, not replace it.
Yeah.
And the active M differential is a perfect example.
Yeah.
It's working constantly, adjusting to give you the best possible grip and handling.
But it's not intrusive. It's not like it's taking over the driving experience.
No, not at all. It's more like a subtle helping hand. It gives you the confidence to push the car harder knowing that it's got your back.
Okay, and what about the interior? Because we talked about all that tech, the iDrive system, the big curved display. Does all that create like a disconnect between the driver and the road?
I thought it might, but honestly, they've done a really good job of integrating it all. The controls are all well placed, the menus are easy to use,
Okay.
and the information is displayed in a way that's really clear and concise.
So you're not feeling overwhelmed by a million different things.
Yeah, not at all. And the head-up display is fantastic
Oh, yeah. I love those.
because it means you don't have to take your eyes off the road to see your speed or your revs or even the navigation.
Right. And speaking of customizing the driving experience, there's that M setup menu.
Oh, yeah.
What kind of control does that give you?
Oh, man, this is where it gets really fun. You can fine-tune everything. The engine response, the steering weight, how stiff the suspension is, even how much the stability control intervenes.
Wow, so you can really dial it in to your liking.
Yeah, you can basically transform the M2 from a comfortable daily driver
Okay.
to a track-focused weapon.
Wow.
Just with a few taps on the screen.
And then there's the M traction control,
Yeah,
which sounds amazing for experienced drivers who really want to,
push the limits.
explore the art of drifting.
It's a dream come true
Sure.
for people who like that sort of thing.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the M2 itself, but let's zoom out for a second.
Right.
Where does this car fit into like the overall landscape of performance cars today?
That's a good question. There are so many high horsepower sports cars out there.
Yeah, and they're all relying on crazy tech
Exactly.
to achieve those performance numbers.
So what makes the M2 different?
Yeah. What sets it apart?
I think it comes down to that core philosophy of pure driving pleasure.
Yep.
It's not trying to be the fastest or the most technologically advanced car.
Hmm.
It's about delivering a driving experience that's just raw and engaging and rewarding.
It's a car that's meant to be driven, not just looked at.
Exactly. It's for people who really value that connection between the car and the driver.
Okay, so we know it's a driver's car.
Yeah.
But what about practicality? Can you live with this thing day to day?
Yeah.
Can you take it on a road trip?
That's the beauty of it. It's surprisingly versatile.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a performance car, but it's also comfortable and practical.
So it's not just a weekend toy.
No. The suspension is firm, but it's still compliant. The seats are comfortable even on long drives, and the interior is really well insulated.
So you're not going to get beat up by the ride or deafened by road noise.
Not at all. BMW has done a great job of balancing performance and comfort.
And of course, you've got all the tech features that make it easy to live with. Navigation, entertainment, connectivity.
Oh, yeah. And even driver assistance systems, lane departure, warning, blind spot monitoring, adaptive cruise control.
Okay, so the M2 can be a thrilling sports car, a comfortable cruiser, and a practical daily driver.
Pretty much. Yeah, it's a jack of all trades.
That's impressive. Before we move on, I want to touch on a few more details.
Okay, what did you have in mind?
Well, they keep mentioning lightweight construction. Like they're really obsessed with keeping the weight down.
Yeah, and that's smart because it's not just about horsepower. It's about agility and responsiveness.
Right, the less weight, the more nimble it feels.
Exactly.
And I noticed they're offering a carbon fiber roof as an option.
Oh, yeah, that's a nice touch. It saves even more weight and lowers the center of gravity, which helps with handling.
And let's be honest, it just looks cool.
It does. It shows that they're paying attention to the details.
Okay, so we've talked about performance technology, practicality, even some of the design details.
Yeah.
But the big question is, does the new M2 live up to the hype?
I think that's for each driver to decide.
Yeah.
But based on everything we've seen, it looks like it has all the right ingredients.
It seems like a car that's been designed with a lot of passion and precision
Yeah.
and a real understanding of what makes a driver's car special.
And in a world where cars are becoming more and more automated,
Right.
the M2 is a reminder of what makes driving so much fun.
Yeah, that connection between the human and the machine.
Mm-hmm.
The thrill of pushing a car to its limits.
And
All right, we're going to take another short break, but when we come back, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the BMW M2. Some final thoughts. So stay tuned. We're back, and after spending all this time with the M2, I'm really impressed with how BMW has managed to capture that pure driving pleasure feeling.
Yeah, it's not easy these days. There's always pressure to add more tech, more features, more everything.
Right. But sometimes less is more.
Exactly. Sometimes the best experiences are the simplest ones.
It's like that feeling of being connected to the machine,
Yeah.
feeling every input, every response. That's what made those classic BMWs so special.
Exactly. And it's something that's easy to lose sight of in this world of touchscreens and driver assistance systems.
But the M2s, it feels like they've found that balance.
Yep.
They've embraced technology, but in a way that enhances the driving experience.
Yeah, like the manual transmission. For example, in a
Yep.
world where everyone's going automatic, BMW still offers a stick shift in the M2.
Yeah, that's a statement.
Oh.
It's like they're saying, we get it. You still want to be involved. You want to feel that connection.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's not just the transmission, the chassis, the steering, the engine. Everything has been tuned to give you that feedback, that responsiveness.
It makes you feel like you're really a part of the experience.
Exactly.
As we're talking about this, I keep picturing myself driving this car on a winding mountain road.
Oh, yeah,
The
yeah.
sun's out.
Yeah.
You can hear that inline-six engine echoing through the valleys.
That's the dream right there.
It is. And I think that's where the M2 really shines. It's a car that's meant to be driven, to be pushed to its limits.
It's about that pure joy of driving, losing yourself in the moment.
And that's what makes it so special. It's not just about the specs or the numbers. It's about that emotional connection.
Yeah, it's about passion. It's about that feeling of freedom you get when you're behind the wheel of a great car.
And in a world that's becoming increasingly automated and impersonal, that's a really powerful message.
It is. The M2 is a reminder that driving can still be an art form.
It's a reminder that driving can be fun. So to our listeners, if you're looking for a car that will rekindle your passion for driving, a car that will make you feel alive behind the wheel, the BMW M2 might just be the answer.
It's a car that you need to experience for yourself.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the all-new BMW M2. We hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
That's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time for another insightful exploration of the world around us.